Good morning, America. C'est moi. It's Dr. Barry. It's not Karl. Karl's taking the week off and has given me the 2 hours to rant and rave, and indeed I will. First, let me start by saying thank you to Karl and comment, how Karl and I got together. I'm not really sure. I knew him as a musician, but I think it was the COVID that kept him here in Syracuse instead of lecturing around the world on his real area of expertise, which is neuroregeneration. 20 years ago, we thought the brain could shrink and couldn't be made bigger or couldn't grow new brain cells. You only had so many, and every time you smoked a cigarette or drank a drink, you killed a few. Well, you probably do. But we do know now that you can regrow brain cells, just like you can regrow every other part of your body. I'm not saying like a salamander, you can take a brain out and regrow it completely, but we do know the brain can increase in size as well as shrink, and that's been very well demonstrated with these different MRIs we have now. Karl offers something that no other therapist in Syracuse offers. It's the equipment he has, the approach he has, which is to stimulate the mind and the body together to work on coordination and balance. These things are so fundamental to your health that I think they're given short shrift by most other people. If you're doing great, why not do greater? Try and build up your bone, improve your balance. If you're not doing well and the typical medical profession hasn't helped you, why not seek out Karl downstairs in my building? He's got equipment and he's got training that no one else within a couple hundred miles of Syracuse anyways has. Luckily, just like everything else, you're not marrying Karl. You're going to try what he has to offer. If you don't like it, don't keep going. But if you don't at least investigate it, you're not going to see a world of super up-to-date equipment that normally takes a decade to get from the coast inwards. And it's here in Syracuse now. It's because of one person. That's Karl. Now, we're going to talk today a lot about your gut, which is the most important thing about your health is your stomach. We're going to be talking about it a lot. As Hippocrates says, all disease begins in the gut. As he also said, let medicine be thy food, but food be thy medicine. So we'll be talking about all of that. I'm going to mention all the books I'm trying to get to. But before we get to that, were you listening to the commercials at the beginning of the show? Because I know I try not to listen to any commercials, but I had to listen because I got to see when the show's coming on. And they had something about the animal people offering end-of-life care to their pets. Now, I'm not putting that down. I think that end-of-life care for pets is reasonable and important and appropriate. But, geez, Louise, we're not giving end-of-life care to our adults. I can't tell you how many people I see with a serious chronic condition or multiple chronic conditions. And when you ask them, have you made any plans for if you get sick? Well, they look at you like, what do you mean get sick? Well, if you couldn't take care of yourself. Well, that's never going to happen. Oh, but I assure you, it's got a high likelihood of happening. And if you were to get sick, if you were to have, God forbid, a stroke, or God forbid, squared, have dementia, then what do we know for a fact what you want done? Because it's going to torture your family. I don't know what Dad would want under these circumstances. Well, in my family, there's no question about what I want. If I can't be involved in the decision-making, that means there's not enough of me left to work on. Let me go. Don't give me any medicines. Don't give me anything. You don't have to kill me. Just give me nothing. Let me pass away peacefully. Don't extend my life unless I have a real life. That's my wishes. That's not yours. You have whatever wishes you want. My friend Steve in Kansas, if he could chop his head off and put it on a platter, as long as he could have access to remote control and conversation and maybe a little scotch, he'd be very, very happy. He doesn't need to move. He just wants to be able to be sentient. I want to be sentient too, but I want to be able to be in charge of my fate, be the master of my destiny, so to speak. So it's important that all of you, really not just above 50, but everyone, because don't know when life's going to take that strange turn for you, that you have someone you know understands what you want done in the case you get sick, and that you've designated someone. This is my proxy. This is the person to make decisions for me. It can be, probably should be, the people that know you best, your wife and your kids, but you can make it anybody you want be a proxy, as long as they know what your wishes are. So if you want everything done, if you want nothing done, the current paperwork we have in New York State, like everything else New York State does, is is all screwed up. They ask questions that, do you want us to pound on your chest but not breathe for you? Do you want us to breathe for you but not pound on your chest? And then I ask people questions that they really, do you want antibiotics? Well, of course I do. No, not necessarily. If you have a bad dementia and you get pneumonia, do you really want to interfere with God's plan to call you home with antibiotics? I don't think so. Now, if you're fine, you're doing great and not need antibiotics for pneumonia, fine. But if you've got end-stage cancer, if you've got end-stage dementia, end-stage renal failure, and you get a bad infection, is that how you want to go out? It certainly can be made painless for you. So, if I can't eat, I want to be fed. Well, I don't know if you do want to be fed. If they give you an option for feeding via tube, but everything I read says that doesn't prolong your life one day and increases the risk of aspiration. You can't get your food down normally unless you're being treated for cancer or have some physical obstruction, etc. It's because you're so broken down you can't swallow and eat. That's kind of, to me, a big clue that it may be time for you to shuffle off this mortal coil. So, again, this is kind of a depressing thing to start the 2 hours off with, but tend to your own, the last bit of your life. Write a will. It's not that hard. I don't know all the legal stuff about it, but wills apparently aren't a difficult thing to do. I don't know if you need a trust. Is a trust a must? I don't know. Ask the guys who do the commercials. But like the guy who wrote the book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, I think it was Thomas Covey, begin with the end in mind. I think that's a generally important thing to say as well. How long are you going to be on this world? What are you going to do at the end? Are you going to leave the money to your family? They're going to spend it on, the bathroom remodel. You're going to donate it to the boys' club and see what they do. Are you going to give it to other charities? Do you figure how much time do you have left? Of course, none of us can know that. But what's on your bucket list? There's a shocking number of people that don't seem to have any bucket list at all. And I think that's because of our modern world. It's just, let me get through the day, let me get through the week. No, it's time to take a bit of time, and I think Sunday's the time to do that. Just sit down and ask yourself, what's the meaning of life? What's the meaning of my life? What am I trying to accomplish between now and then? Is it time to start making new friendships? Is it time to start reinforcing old friendships? Is it too late at 80 or 60 or 25 to change your habits? And I say unto you, no, it is never too late. I'm not saying that you can completely fix all the ills of your health when you're 80 by changing, but you can absolutely make dramatic changes in your activities and diet and have dramatic benefits. Will it extend your life by 20 years? I don't know. I'm not making that claim. But it'll extend your health longevity, not maybe your longevity, but your health longevity. And don't you want to be as healthy as you can until you keel over? I know I do. All right, we'll get into the first break, so let's get some ads. Let's find out who's stabbing who. I'll be back in just a few minutes. It's Dr. Joe Barry. You're listening to WSYR 570 AM, 106.9 FM. Okay, my Americans and my Americans, Dr. Barry, back again with Your Health Matters. I'm subbing in for Karl Sterling. Thank you very much. It's Dr. Barry. You might have heard about that Mexican Navy vessel that crashed into the Brooklyn Bridge. What a screw up that is. It's quite interesting, and I'm going to give you a little something that other people don't know, so you can act like you're intelligent in this matter at least. The name of the boat, Cuauhtémoc, was actually the name of the last Aztec ruler. The last Aztec emperor was Cuauhtémoc, and didn't work out well for him, and apparently it hasn't worked out for this training vessel. I would say more training's in order. But at least not more people were hurt or killed. What a strange, strange story on this gloomy day. Okay, let's talk about the books I got to get done before I can call myself well-read. On my desk still to be read is The Complete Guide to Testosterone by James Francis. Now, I do a lot of testosterone work, but someone recommended this book as a definitive authoritative book. And I'm trying to give people better testosterone, and in particular, better free testosterone without the use of drugs, and that's very hard to do other than with platitudes like, well, don't drink as much alcohol, get better sleep, get more exercise. So I'm hoping this 490-page tome can help me with that. Then there's a double up from Dr. Neil Barnard, who's a super vegetarian doctor, Foods That Fight Pain, and The Power of Foods Diet, both of those by Dr. Neil Barnard. Then there's Ageless, The New Science of Getting Older Without Getting Old by Andrew Steele. There's Change Your Diet, Change Your Mind by Georgia Ede. And again, this is another book that talks about how your diet controls your brain. I'm going to get into that in just a second, or just a minute. And The Ageless Brain by the great Dr. Dale Bredesen. In my world with dementia, there are two luminaries. One is Dr. Dale Bredesen. He wrote the book, The End of Alzheimer's, and the other is Dr. Diane Goodenow, not a medical doctor, but a molecular biologist, which is really what I'm after. And he wrote the book, Breaking Alzheimer's. So if your doctor says there's nothing to do about dementia or just recommends Aricept, don't shed tears. Go get one of these two books, Breaking Alzheimer's or The End of Alzheimer's, because both of these have tremendous information in them. And you can't go wrong in any way by looking at these artists and these scientists and what they're recommending. And what they're recommending, besides certain supplements, is attention to the diet, the exercise, the sleep, and the stress. Dr. Bredesen's program in particular is incredibly detailed. Everything from oil pulling, which is switching oils in your mouth to get rid of the toxins and kill the bugs instead of brushing your teeth. Well, in addition to brushing your teeth. They talk about trying to get quality sleep. Everyone should be checked for sleep apnea. And this is not happening at that august tower on the hill, university. You go to university for dementia, and they'll throw you an Aricept. Maybe they'll send you to the neuropsychiatrist, as I mentioned before, for $1,500 worth of neuropsychiatric testing. That really doesn't, it can give you a bunch of different labels, but doesn't change what to do. Whereas Dr. Bredesen talks about making sure your diet is right, your exercise is right, your sleep is right, and you're managing your stress. And I hate to be the guy that spoils the party, but the truth is the diet has to be right, not only for Alzheimer's, but for everything. And we're going to see if the diet's not right, nothing's not. Now, you have people like Dr. Neil Barnard, Dr. McDougall, who recently passed away last year, Dr. Esselstyn, Dr. Campbell, that all say that plants are great for you and you should avoid meats and oils at all costs, and the ultimate health is vegetarian. But I got to be honest, I've had vegetarians that switched to eating meat that said, wow, I feel much better now. You have Dr. Anthony Chaffee. You've got Dr. Paul Saladino, the carnivore king. You've got all these other doctors talking about the carnivore diet. And you know how I roll. I say, let's work together to find the diet that's right for you. The low-carb people laugh at the high-carb people that laugh at each other, they're pointing fingers, but both of them look at processed food and go, well, that's a definite no-no. The McDonald's, the Dunkin' Donuts, the Burger Kings, the Chipotles, anything that you can drive to is something you should drive by. And so that's the easy stuff. But what you have to do is pick a diet, try it for a month, see what it does to how you feel, and see what it does to your blood work. Does it make your insulin lower? Does it improve your omega-3 6 ratio? Does it lower the interleukin-2 or the brain-derived nephrotic factor? Does it have any effect on the omegas? Measure and see. So there's no one diet for everybody, but there is certainly bad things. And I think people like Dr. Bernard and Dr. Greger really underscore the possible toxins of things like the oxalates, the lectins, the nightshades. Just ask Sally K. Norton, the author of the books about oxalates, who not a Cornell graduate, who wrote it's her life's work to inform people that even foods that you think are super healthy are not. Now, I do some funky blood testing, not Dr. Gundry level, but I do some funky blood testing, and you wouldn't be surprised how many, that there is no one that I've tested that didn't react to something in their diet. And, of course, the things that people chiefly react to over and over again are tomatoes and corn and wheat. I find corn and wheat, even more than tomatoes, as inflammatory for people. And that's why I tell people, if you don't know what to do, if your health is bad and you don't have access to any other book and you don't have any time, you can't wrap your head around another conflicting evidence, just go gluten-free and dairy-free for a month. Gluten-free and dairy-free. It's never been easier to go gluten-free because Wegmans used to have a little end cap of gluten-free stuff. Now they have an aisle of gluten-free everything, pasta, crackers, etc. It's just like if you're trying to be vegetarian, these fake burgers, I think they're more dangerous actually than real meat because of all the chemicals in them. And people try and get gluten substitutes that I don't think they're necessarily better for you either. Just go gluten-free and dairy-free for a month and see if you feel. If you feel worse, then don't do it. If you feel better, then press on to the greater glory. Now, we're going to talk later on in the next hour probably about the gut-brain paradox. That's the book I just finished this morning by Dr. Gundry. And it's another triumphant tour de force through inflammation. If you look at what kills Americans, the top 10 haven't changed since I've been a doctor. In the last 35 years, it's been heart attack, cancer. And then the list, it's like a horse race. In certain years, stroke might be coming at number 3, followed right behind by chronic lung disease, with trailing behind kidney disease. But in this case, now stroke is down to number 5, the last time I checked. Is that because of the way they count them? Is that because the other things are becoming more common? Or is it because there's less smoking? But still, heart attack, cancer, stroke, lung disease, accidents, diabetes, dementia, renal failure, flu and pneumonia, suicide. These remain the top 10. And if you look at those, 6 of them are inflammatory in nature. And that's where most doctors stop. Okay, that's caused by inflammation. Well, you don't want that. But what's causing the inflammation? And the answer is the inflammation is caused by 5 things, actually, and they all begin with the word S. So the 5 S's. 1 is being sedentary. I'm sure Karl does that a lot, but if you're not exercising, you're not maximizing your health. Exercise is important for physical and mental conditions. I don't have to do something, you have to be killing yourself every day, but you've got to move. Motion is the lotion. So being sedentary. 2 is stress. Well, we all have some stress, but it's how you manage it. 3 is smoking. That's an obvious one. If you're still smoking, I've got something to say to you later in the show. Then you've got the seed oils, which we're just becoming aware of. When I say we, I mean you. I've been aware of them for years now because of my focus on nutrition. But Dr. Chris Kenobi, Ben Bickman, there's so many other people that talk about the danger. Dr. Gundry, of course, has a video, the miraculous benefits, the astonishing benefits of adding fish oil to your diet. Fish oil, krill oil, cod liver oil, whatever you want to call it. We need more of the right oils in our body. As Dr. Rogers used to say, we need a oil change. And that's the final S is sugar. And it's never been easier to measure sugar. I saw on the internet a little device like the oximeters that sits on the end of the finger and can measure your sugar. They're mostly in Europe. I don't know if they're accurate or not. I've seen ones that say they do your blood pressure as well. I've tested those in the past. They're not reliable. But maybe we're finally getting to the point where we can have this little device on the end of your finger. But for now, we have CGMs, continuous glucose monitors. And the CGMs will tell you what's as a higher glycemic index, popcorn or rice or potatoes. And the answer is, who the heck knows? Have the popcorn, check your sugar. Have the rice, check your sugar. Have the brown rice, check your sugar. Have potatoes, check your sugar. And with the continuous glucose monitors, that's never been easier. I had to prick my finger the other day to do some blood testing for an NAD sample I was doing. And I hate that little pricker. It goes into the skin, and luckily my blood's pretty thin, so a lot of blood came out because I do a lot of fish oil. But I hated that. I hated when I donated blood. They had to prick your fingers. You take the blood. You don't want to throw it away. Don't prick. I couldn't be a diabetic and prick my fingers. But now, for $50, you can get the version from Dexcom or from, Freestyle Libre, 2, 3, 3+ different models. You can get a continuous glucose monitor that tells you what your sugars are night and day for 2 weeks. You don't have to use it all the time. Use it for 2 weeks, learn from it, and change your diet, change your health, and change your life. So there are 5 S's: stress, being sedentary, seed oils, sugar, and sleep. Don't forget sleep. You got to have good sleep. If your sleep's not good, you're not going to be good. And all those things you can work on. And you don't necessarily have to have a physician. No, I'm afraid, my friends, at the bottom of this hour before we go to the news, I've got to be the the share of information you don't want to hear. That is, your doctor is focused on your illness. You must be focused on your wellness. Medicine 2.0, you go in, well, I got a headache, here's a pill. Oh, it's a migraine, here's a different pill. I got stomach upset, here's a pill. I've got constipation, here's a pill. I've got colitis, here's a pill. I've got blood pressure, I've got sugar. Pill to the pill still. That's wrong. What we've got to do is say, if you have colitis, you're doing something wrong. If you have headaches, you're doing something wrong. If you have indigestion, whatever it is, if there's some aberration from the norm, it's not because of the tooth fairy. It's because something's wrong, and you can spend time and energy to find out what it is rather than just cover it up with these pills that don't really change your health destiny. Later in the show today, we're going to talk about things to ask your doctor for. That's blood tests. That's things to ask your doctor for, which are not blood tests. We're going to talk about fluoride in the water and my upcoming meeting with the health commissioner. We're going to talk about the 2 different available next-generation checks for cancer. We're going to talk about ICOR research again. I got so much more stuff to talk about, and I've only got another hour and a half to talk about it then. But it looks like we're getting to the bottom of the hour, and you know what that means. It means real news, not just from me. Again, this is Dr. Joseph Berry. I'm subbing in for the great Karl Sterling. You're listening on WSYR 570 AM and 106.9 FM. Welcome back, America. It's Dr. Berry. I'm covering for Karl Sterling. The show is called Your Health Matters. The great surgeon and clinician Osler had a quote about medicine, and it was, one of the first duties of the physician is to educate the masses, not to take medicine. I think he also said the aim of medicine is to prevent disease and prolong life. The ideal of medicine is to eliminate the need of a physician. Of course, you recall that it was Thomas Alva Edison who said the physician of the future will prescribe no medicines, but will attend to the carriage, the form and function of the body. And my old buddy from Cornell, Albert Einstein, said the future of medicine will be frequency medicine. And that, I think, is an interesting quote, and it leads me to talk about a recent visit I had with a chiropractor. So I realized that modern medicine, being a allopathic doctor, that's the kind of people that write prescriptions, it's kind of limited. I mean, we don't have a pill for it. We just pass you off to the next doctor and hope for the best. But we forget that it's not all about pills and potions and ointments. It's about the care of the patient, not the disease. If you focus on the patient, you can get them better. If you focus on the disease, you're not going to get anywhere. And so I believe that chiropractors can attend to the frame of the body. I believe that people that know about herbs, that can be just as important, if not more important, than these isolated things we call prescriptions. Like Gary Brecka, who's become very popular nowadays because of his genetic approach to medicine, he says there are 5 actionable genes you should measure, because if you have a genetic deficiency in one of these things and you can take action against it, you can prolong your life. And Gary Brecka believes in red light therapy, energy mats, hydration, hydrogen water, etc. And I'm done with all that stuff. I think a modern doctor's got to look at other stuff. When I describe it to my fellow patients and my other doctors, I say, if doctors can't bill for it, if it's not approved by the insurance company, doctors have no interest in it and don't want to learn about it. So the red light therapy, you're not going to hear your doctor talk about that. Hydration, the energy mats, no, to them that's also kind of hooey-palooey. They don't see studies on it because they don't look. They don't look at the animal kingdom and see what that can tell them about these studies. They just, it's not in their realm. But one of the things that I believe is that we are creatures of energy, and that's a biochemical energy, it's electrical energy, and you're talking about frequencies. If you take a tuning fork and you smack it against the table and it starts to vibrate, and you take another tuning fork of a similar frequency and bring it close, it too will start vibrating. So how crazy is it, the idea that you can use sound waves or frequencies that you can or cannot see and feel that could possibly alter what's happening at the cellular level in your body? Well, it makes eminent sense to me biophysically. So I'm interested in these things. And one of my patients, as they often do, challenged me and said, there's a chiropractor down the street that has a frequency machine that can tell you what's wrong and right about you and help to retune you. I like this concept. I don't know if it makes any sense. I don't know if it's complete nonsense or whether there's something to it. So I went to see the chiropractor. His name is Dr. Strahl. And I'll tell you this, Dr. Strahl is certainly very well-meaning, and he's certainly very well-spoken. And the device that he has perfected, he didn't develop this energy medicine. He just put it into this device and standardized it. And there are, I guess, other devices like it out there. But this device, could scan me, look to see where my frequencies are off, and then after the scan, do a treatment where it exposes me to the right frequencies, and hopefully my tuning fork body will get closer to those right frequencies. Well, I like the idea, I like the science, but is it real or is it BS? And so I went and had a treatment myself. Now, I have to be honest with you, my peeps. I've taken testosterone. I've taken urolithin A, which is a mitochondrial roborant. I've taken plasmalogens. I've taken, just about every supplement I could think of, short of growth hormone. And most of the time, I don't feel that different. I don't really say, oh my God, this has changed everything. Well, the NAD precursors made a difference, but otherwise I didn't feel that I really had anything different was in my life, that I had more energy, slept better, digested better, etc. I'm not that sick, so it wasn't easy for me to get that healthier. So the fact that I didn't have an immediate response to this therapy means nothing to me. Okay, if the response takes a day or two, that's great. Okay, if I can't feel the response, but it's made me better, that's great too. Your car doesn't necessarily run better after an oil change. You don't get better mileage, etc., but it's better for the engine. And I want, at heart, what's better for my engine. So, but the doctor made some claims, and he said that this can work to actually, people that do this machine on a regular basis harmonize their frequencies and improve their health. And it can also use for people that have an issue, whether it's maybe attention deficit or whether it's a digestive issue or an inflammatory issue. If inflammation comes from frequencies that are not right, and you can resolve those frequency abnormalities and diminish inflammation, could you not help people? So one form of inflammation that I'm very well aware of is gluten or wheat, gluten enteropathy, non-tropical sprue, they call it what you want, but it's people that can't eat regular wheat in America. And my sweet Debbie has this trouble, my wife. And if we go to a restaurant and there's a crouton on the salad, she can't eat the salad. And my wife is not one of those frou-frou people that complains about stuff. She doesn't want to spend the next 3 days in the bathroom, and I can commiserate with that. So Dr. Strahl has suggested that maybe his machine can ameliorate that, make it better. So I said, okay, I'm up for the challenge. And I asked my wife, who said, I'm up for the challenge. So next week, we're going to be calling Dr. Strahl up and saying, hey, let's see what you can do for my wife. If you can help my wife with this machine, I'm going to start using this machine on myself and everyone around me. So I'm very interested in seeing what's going to happen down the street. And I will let you know one way or the other via Karl about what happened, because I'm always interested in what's new. Now, a lot of what's new is no good in a year or two, but if you got to keep your mind open, you've got to keep your eyes open, and there's some little frou-frou, you've got to keep your heart open to new things, because I feel so sorry for my doctor friends. This is what I know. Maybe I'll learn something new from one of these journals that are all controlled by the pharmaceutical companies, but they really don't seem to be. You ask your doctor, do they seem stressed out? Do they seem at wit's end? Do they seem overworked? I guess we're all too busy. But you've got to look at the life positively. And I think that attitude does make altitude. And I think as I try and talk to my nurse practitioners, stop treating the problem. Start focusing on the patient. When the patient knows you care about them, when the patient knows you're working on them, not their disease, things get better. And I've seen this over and over again in the literature. And I think I spoke about this last week very gently and very briefly, that a study was done with high blood pressure. They gave people placebo, and they gave people real pills, and they gave people obnoxious doctors, and they gave them compassionate doctors. And the compassionate doctors, those people had lower blood pressure, whether they took the placebo or took the real blood pressure pill. And people that didn't have a compassionate doctor, even if they took the blood pressure pill, didn't necessarily get the benefit. So, again, it's not about straightforward medicine 2.0. What's the problem? Here's a pill. I want you to come with me, screaming and kicking if you must, but otherwise coming hopefully laughingly and skippingly to medicine 3.0. What's the problem? Where have we deviated from the grand architectural plans? Get back to those plans, get back to the fundamental quality of our nutritional health, and we get healthy again. As I tell the young people who don't have the time or energy for a long lecture, it's about the fuel. Put good fuel in, get good function. Okay, I see we're at another quarter-hour break. We've got to sell some cars and talk about some lorry stuff. But I'll be back on. I've got another hour and a quarter. You're stuck with Dr. Joe Barry. You're listening to WSYR on this drizzly, cold, windy day. It's 570 AM and 106.9 FM. Okay, I guess it's Dr. Barry. Well, I'm pretty sure it's Dr. Barry, but I guess I'm back. Let me talk a little bit about another quote from a well-known doctor who's a surgeon. And I find surgeons, people go, just that doctor was he was very arrogant. He was very full of himself. And I go, exactly. That's what I want in my surgeon. I don't want a humble surgeon. That's fine if he is. But I want a surgeon who says, yeah, in the operating room, I'm the man. I save lives. I didn't see the surgeon at the operation. You know what that means? He didn't have any complications. I don't look to have personality in my surgeons. I look for performance. How many perforations? How many infections? How many operations have you done? But there's a surgeon who made a quote. It says, as a surgeon, you have to have a controlled arrogance. If it's uncontrolled, you kill people. But you have to be pretty arrogant to saw through a person's chest, take out their heart, and believe you can fix it. Then, when you succeed and the patient survives, you pray, because it's only by the grace of God that you get there. So here, even Dr. Mehmet Oz is talking about arrogance, but in the end, he's being humble and giving the credit to he who deserves it. Well, I'm also a believer that if you focus on something, it gets worse. So I tell people, don't focus on your illness, focus on your wellness. Yes, you broke your leg in 2 places, but you didn't break your other leg. Yes, you had a heart attack, but in 6 months, no one's going to know you've had a heart attack, and we can make efforts so that you won't have another heart attack. Yes, you're losing your vision, but you're not losing your power to speak, and we have lots of ways we can help your vision. Yes, you're losing your hearing, but modern audiology can make a big difference there. So focus on the positive, not the negative, because you will. Again, it's Dr. Barry being frou-frou. I think that what's the ancient sentiment? Guard your thoughts because they become your actions. Guard your actions, they become your habits. Guard your habits because they become your character. And I do believe, and more science shows, that the mind controls everything. Look at people with chronic pain. You may think that chronic regional pain syndrome, that the pain is still in your ankle, or the pain is still in your hand. But actually it's not. It's now on a short circuit in the spinal cord and in the rest of the nervous system that has given you this response. And it's really kind of a danger response, which we're going to talk about later when we talk about the gut-brain paradox. It's the body in a constant state of stress because something you've done has made your primitive mind be afraid, and your primitive mind doesn't have a sense of time. So once it's made afraid, it stays afraid. But if you necessarily can't fix your primitive mind, but you can address the primitive mind. And there's lots of people that are working on this. Annie Hooper with her DNRS system. She focuses on retraining these cells in your brain that are always in a panic mode. And I think I think all of us can work on retraining our brain. Now, one of the things I rail about is the government mucking around with our health. Now, one thing the government did that helped health in this country immeasurably was not giving any advice at all. but taxing. We tax the heck out of cigarettes. And when I speak to half my smokers who quit smoking, they quit because they got PO'd about the extra taxes. They just couldn't afford it anymore. Even going to the reservation. They weren't going to buy the reservation cigarettes, so they're just going to quit smoking. But it was that nickel extra on the tax that did it for them. I'm grateful for that extra nickel. I think that's how you control behavior. You want to have your big gulp? Fine, but make it a $10 big gulp. Don't restrict what people can do, but charge them appropriate to their health issues with it. So we got people to quit smoking, and that was, or at least cut down, not by coercing them, not by showing them, I think, ads in the paper with ads in the TV, people with tracheostomy, but because of the cost of it. So why can't we use that same principle when it comes to food? Why can't McDonald's food cost $25 and beans and rice cost 50 cents? Well, that's probably what they do cost. So we have to figure out some way to clean up our system and not believe what the government tells us, because the government tells us that what's that stuff, the butter replacement, margarine is good for you. There's no way that stuff in the yellow tub, which is the same color as the yellow tub itself, could possibly be healthy for you. And yet our government said that. Eggs are bad, eggs are good. No, I don't think you can trust them. And unfortunately, I don't think we can trust them when it comes to putting stuff in our water. The EPA itself says we do not have grade 1 evidence for the use of fluoride in the water. Oh, I see them now, the dentists and my dentist-adjacent friends. Well, look what happened when we put fluoride in the water. Teeth cavities went way down here in America. And then I say to them, well, did you look at what happened in Europe? Because in Europe, cavities also went way down with the exact same curve as it happened in America. And yet they didn't fluoridate. The British fluoridate, and look how good their teeth is. Not. So in reading about this, when you read about health, you start reading about public health. When you read about public health, you read about, the health of the air, which luckily in churches we have great air, and the health of the water. And, depends on where you live with the water. Now, I'm on a well water. So I have my water tested by an independent laboratory, and I also have a reverse osmosis filter. But for those of you people that are on city water, you have no idea what you're getting. How much leftover antidepressants, birth control pills, all the stuff that's in the urine that eventually gets in in tiny amounts in the ocean, in the lakes, etc. It rains Roundup on us. We know there's glyphosate in the rain. So I have a thing about fluoride, and I think that fluoride isn't as good for teeth as we make it out to be. There's many other ways to provide fluoride to children, and in fact, from 2019, the Journal of the American Medical Association Pediatrics, there's an article about the dangers of fluoride in water causing mental retardation. I'm not saying it's causing trisomy 21. I'm saying it's knocking 5 or 4 IQ points off each person. So if your IQ would be 105, now it's 99. If it would be 80, now it's 75. And that can make a huge difference individually and as a nation. Could fluoride be a carcinogen? Well, look at the bottle of fluoride that they're putting in the water. It's got skull and crossbones on it. If I'm not mistaken, because I haven't been up there personally, the people at Oakwood that put the fluoride in, they have to use hazmat suits. Now, that can't be right. If you're using a hazmat suit, that's like toxic, and it shouldn't therefore be in the water. Yes, I know the dose makes the poison. But why are we putting fluoride in the water for the health of our children if it could actually be making bones worse than for elder people, if it could be causing cancer, if it could be causing mental delay or mental retardation? Let kids have it in a different form. And as I'm going to start and finish with this one, I really love. The manufacturers of baby formula will say right in the formula, if your community has fluoride in the water, do not use tap water to make baby formula because of the fluoride in it. Really? So how can it be good? So finally, under intense pressure from my letter writing campaign, the Commissioner of Health, Dr. Catherine Anderson, has agreed to meet with me next week to at least review it. Now, it's not going to be obstreperous. It's not going to be confrontational. I'm going to say, thank you for meeting with me. I appreciate your time. Here's a bunch of papers that talk about why fluoride is bad, and I'm hoping you can review it. Look at the state of Florida. Look at the state of Utah. Look at the legal actions that are happening in California. I may be a crazy doctor in Camillus, in some dungeon in Camillus, but I may be a lone internal medicine doctor. I'm not an environmental doctor. I'm not a public health doctor. But when you see that something's wrong, like, what's his name? The guy from World War II. When you see something wrong, you have to take Dietrich von Bonhoeffer. Thank you very much, back brain. Dietrich Bonhoeffer said, no, I don't think it's a good idea to put the Jews in the railroad cars. I don't care what you say. It's wrong, and I have to stand up for it. And I think it's wrong to put fluoride in. So I'm going to be the Dietrich Bonhoeffer of fluoride in New York State, at least in Syracuse. Will I be able to convince the commissioner? I doubt it. But will I at least feel that I've had my say? I tell people that she's lucky I'm not retired, because if I was, I'd be up there with the Jesus outfit, with the sandals, and I'd have a big sign on the front that would say, the end is near, and on the back would say, for fluoridation. And I would walk for an hour or two every day outside the building, with this sign, and drawing attention to it. My wife probably wouldn't like it, but again, I feel called to it. When you know that something's wrong, you've got to say something about it. And the other thing I think is wrong is messing with children. And I don't think that we should, anywhere in America, be doing sex change operations on people under the age of 21. I don't think, personally, that we should be using hormone blockers under the age of 21. I think that's physically and morally wrong. Now, yes, I do not have a child that suffers from this illness. But if I did, I would not be looking for an answer with a scalpel or a pill. If they feel so strongly about their dysphoria, that they're trapped in the wrong body, they absolutely can wait until they're fully adults to make decisions about that. But I think that to take a perfectly healthy body of a child of either sex and manipulate it chemically or physically, based on is it a whim? Is it a wish? Is it a fad? Is it a heartfelt wish? I don't know. And again, I'm very happy and I'm very grateful that I don't have a child afflicted with this. But I just think it's wrong to do anything to children that you don't have to do to save their life. And that's another place I'd be ticketing if I knew where to picket. And thank goodness I don't, because I still have work to do. And the work that I have to do is to continue to work with patients to try and help them understand they have to be their own healthcare provider. Oh, you can go to Amazon now, as I tell my nurse practitioners, who don't complain about seeing patients. Amazon will see them. Virtual doctors. I mean, I was reviewing charts this morning for my staff because I have to look over their work. And I see this lady, Mrs. Jones, is a 35-year-old patient. She's taking a GLP-1 drug, a weight loss shot, which we were not giving her. She was getting it from some doctor on the internet. And, of course, I read the whole note from the provider. But what I didn't see the provider say is, well, why are you using an internet doctor? Why wouldn't you just come to us? We can talk about those drugs. We have expertise with those drugs. We're happy to monitor you with those drugs. And that's an issue. Why are people going to these internet doctors? And, the doctor on the internet will give you anything. Do you want a weight loss drug? Do you want a hair drug? Do you want a sex drug? I mean, they're not looking at you on the camera. You could tell them anything. You get any drug you want. I think that's going to become fairly dangerous. And I think that your regular doctor talking about pill after pill is fairly dangerous. We've got to keep focusing on the basics, which is your diet, your exercise, your sleep, and your stress. In terms of your sleep, that's the easiest thing. Cool room, no noise, limit the mental exercises before bedtime, set standard protocols, meaning go to bed at the same time. It's more important to go to bed at the same time than it is to get up at the same time. Try and get to bed when it's dark and, follow the circadian rhythm. But if you have to take some sleeping medicine, don't take Benadryl. That's terrible for you. Don't take Tylenol PM. You should instead take...
program by Karl Sterling. The content of this show is that of Karl Sterling and does not represent the views of the station or iHeartMedia. Some of the information contained in this program has not been approved by the FDA, nor is it intended to diagnose, prevent, treat, or cure any diseases. Information has been for general information only, and before considering anything discussed, you should contact your doctor or primary care physician.
The following is a paid program by Karl Sterling. The content of this show is of Karl Sterling and does not represent the views of this station or iHeartMedia. Some of the information contained in this program has not been approved by the FDA, nor is it intended to diagnose, prevent, treat, or cure any diseases. Information hereafter is for general information only, and before considering anything discussed, you should contact your doctor or primary care physician. Your Health Matters with Karl Sterling on News Radio 570 WSYR and 106.9 FM and live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app. Bringing the latest in health and wellness so you can get to the other things that matter. Here's your host, Karl Sterling.
Welcome back. This is Dr. Joseph Berry. I'm afraid Karl's off for the weekend, and he's asked me to substitute, and of course I'm delighted to. And yes, I've been ranting, and I've been railing, and been talking about lots of things, but as I've always promised to myself, and hopefully to you, I want to give you stuff that's actionable. So let me give you three things that are actionable right now. One is root canals. I've got a couple in my mouth, and I worry that these root canals, at the end of the day, after years, the bottom of the root canal always becomes infected. I believe that because it's dead tissue, and now I've got little tiny pockets of inflammation in my teeth. So the answer will be to take the root canals out and put in implants, but that's painful and expensive, and my teeth don't hurt, so I've been unwilling to do that yet. And the other thing is, I don't think there's a dentist in Central New York that has this bioidentical or holistic approach. There was Dr. McGrath, and he's retired. So I'd like to have these out. I'd like to put implants in and diminish my inflammation. But it seems like a lot of pain and money when it doesn't bother me. But I know it could have an impact on my health. And in fact, when I did the glycan age, it said that, although I'm 67, it said I was 6 years older because of inflammation. And then we went through the list of possible inflammatory things, and I didn't really have any of them. So could it be these little pockets in my teeth that are causing this, inflammation in my body? It's on the list. I'm not asking you to pull out your root canals, but I'm saying if the doctor says you need the root canal, which is basically they drill into the teeth, kill it, pump bleach into the root, so they kill everything down there, then they pack it, with acellular material, and there you can then put a crown on. But the problem is that's a dead tooth. It's much better to put an implant in because that's inert material, not dead tissue. So my rant about dentists is do not let them put a root canal in, spend the extra money to get an implant because it will be much safer for your health in the long run. Number two is we're walking again at the canal. And if you want to hear more from me or you want to come and confront me, barring confronting me with a pistol, you want to come and yell at me about my views on inflammation, on detoxification, whatever. If you want to have a question you want to answer, we walk every Tuesday from 5:30. We start at 5:30 at the Reed Webster Park in Camillus. We walk along the Erie Canal one way, or we walk up the other park, which is a little more hilly. But either way, we walk for a bit, stop, turn around, and come back. So it's not, and if you get tired, you sit on the bench and wait for us. It's not particularly exerting. Most of it's flat and level, and you have a chance to either commune with nature, talk with me, talk with other people. But why not get out of your house? 5:30 every Wednesday, meet at the Reed Webster Park. You'll see a bunch of people milling around my exotic Kia Sportage, the red Sportage. We'll all be there. We hang out for a few minutes before we walk, get some walking in. It's a social thing. It's a physical thing. It can be a mental thing because I ask people a mental question every time we do it, a trivia question, a brain teaser, and it stimulates them. I don't think most of them care, but they do enjoy the walking. And you don't have to be a patient of mine. You can come walking with us as well. It doesn't cost anything. There's no charge. If you don't want to say anything, that's fine. It's every Tuesday during the summer, starting at 5:30. And usually we're done before 6:30. So that's Reed Webster Park. Would love to have more people walking. As we say in New York, it can't wait. And the third thing is, if you or know someone who's got a problem with alcohol, that you can talk to. There's some people you just can't talk to about it. But if you can talk to them and they say, I admit I got a problem. It's very hard to cut down drinking. I think it's easier to stop drinking than to cut down drinking. Just like it's easier to stop sugar than to cut down sugar. And although we'll talk more about some other addiction issues later on, this is ICOR, that's ICHOR. ICOR Research in Syracuse is offering a study where they will give you a medicine to try and curb your drinking. And I think that that's a worthwhile study to be interested in if you have a problem. They're going to give you the medicine for free. They're going to follow you for free. And I think this is, if you have a problem with alcohol, and many people do, check the blue bin. This is an excellent avenue to try and get better. The phone number to call ICOR Research on this is 315-904-5004. That number again, 315-904-5004. So 1, avoid root canals. 2, think about walk. You can walk with us or walk on your own, but get out of the house and get some. I don't care if it's raining. We'll walk in the rain. Just can't be thunderstorming. And then 3 is if you have a problem or if you know someone with a problem, ICOR Research is now offering people a chance to get medicine to help their alcohol cessation for free. And the medicine, interestingly enough, happens to be a GLP-1 drug. It's not the ones currently available on the market, but GLP-1 drugs may help people. These are drugs like Bydureon, Ozempic, Mounjaro, Saxenda, I think. There's a couple of names, so it's basically 2 or 3 different medicines with 4 or 5 different names, all designed to help you lose weight, the GLP-1s and the GIP drugs. And this is a new drug that they're researching because it may blunt alcohol. Now, I think that may also blunt gambling. It may also blunt nicotine. We have to see. But there's a whole different view of addiction that I've been looking at recently, which I think is an interesting look at it, and I'm looking forward to seeing whether it makes sense and whether it's actionable, because I like to study stuff, but I most like to study stuff that's actionable. I don't like to study your blood type because I cannot affect your blood type, but I can affect your omega-3 level, your insulin level. I can affect your triglyceride level. I can affect your cholesterol level, but I don't really think that's an important issue. I don't think cholesterol is the cause of heart disease, and I have many articles that support that. Cholesterol, and just like the neurofibrillary plaques and tangles in the brain, are not what cause the Alzheimer's. We know this, that they're just markers, they're just warning signs of underlying inflammation. And inflammation has to come from something. And in America, at least in central New York, it's not coming from the air we breathe. Although there's some things I don't like in the water, inflammation is not probably coming from the water. Therefore, inflammation has to be coming from the food. And not just to people that are jelly bean, jujube eating people. It's people eating food they think might be healthy, tomatoes, the corn, etc., that's causing inflammation. And I have a lot more to tell about inflammation and addiction when we come back after this first break. It's Dr. Joe Barry, subbing for the great Karl Sterling. You're listening to WSYR 570 AM and 106.9 FM. Welcome back, my friends and frenemies. It's Dr. Barry. I'm covering for Karl Sterling. And let me again put in a plug for Karl. I mean, the stuff he has offered down there, his approach isn't, here's the problem, you'll fit into it. It's, what's your unique problem? Let's work on that with different tools. And they have different tools down there than anybody else. It doesn't hurt you to come on by 5415 West Tennessee Street. Come on by and take a gaggle or a goggle at what he's got and see if there's something there for you. Do you need a membership? Do you need a one-time visit? You work that out with Karl, but this is a guy that's interested in helping people. Like me, it makes him feel good when he does good. And there's not enough of that around. And I think that Karl is a positive force in the universe. Speaking of positive forces in the universe, if you're interested in a movie to watch with your family, my wife and I watched a good one last night. It was called Nonas. That's Nonna, Nonas. And it was with Vince Vaughn, who I think is a very, very funny guy. He's not funny in this movie. I mean, it's not a comedy, but it's a very heartwarming movie. And like Alpha, another older movie, I think those are both movies you can watch with your kids and feel good about it. And can you say that about much anymore? I don't know. I don't think so. Now, let me just quickly quote my good friend Hippocrates. He shared a dorm room at Cornell years ago, and he said, I will, as part of the Hippocratic Oath, he hadn't perfected it by then, I will remember that there is an art to medicine as well as science, and that warmth, sympathy, and understanding may outweigh the surgeon's knife or the chemist's drug. And again, it's attitude. And I think that's important for patients and for the doctor as well. Now, let's go from that mufti, woo-woo stuff to real medicine about addiction. Addiction from alcohol, addiction from gambling, addiction to drugs, addiction to chocolate. Maybe not gambling. Let me leave gambling off the table, but because the other ones are all stuff you consume. Alcohol, and in fact, smoking. Dr. Gundry, in his latest book, The Gut-Brain Paradox, attributes all of these tendencies to the bugs in your gut. And let's go through it. He talks about, and one of his chapters is, the people have S for brains. I don't know if I can say the S word on the air, so let's not get Karl in trouble. But, he uses one of his chapters is entitled S for brains, feces for brains. And we do have bacteria in our brain. We thought the brain was sterile. We thought all these things were sterile. Oh, no. There's a nerve that goes from the brain down to the gut. It's called the vagus nerve. But it is a highway. It also goes from the gut to the brain. And how important is this interaction? If you cut the vagus nerve in people, it cuts the risk of Parkinson's disease by 40%. So clearly the vagus nerve is implicated in Parkinson's disease. And how? It's because the bugs in the gut go up the vagus nerve, right up that highway to the brain, create inflammation, and it's off to the races. Now, when you add up all the bugs in your body, what's so-called holobiome, we have an oral biome that's in the mouth, 700 different species. The skin biome is 1,000 different species. We have bacteria in our lungs, our breast ducts, the vagina, the uterus, the prostate. Now, they're all over. If you could take if you were Geordi from Deep Space Nine or one of those science fiction shows, the guy with the visor that sees things, we could just click on our glasses, click, 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 we could see more. You'd see that as you're walking through what you think is air, it's billions and billions of viruses that are lighter than air. Go to the Landmark Theater and watch a show and sit in the back where you watch the spotlights go through the air. Oh my God, all that stuff's floating in the air, you don't even realize it. And that's the big stuff you can see. There's much, much more. We cannot isolate ourselves from bacteria. We have to live in communion with them. This dates way back to Louis Pasteur and Béchamp, his competition. Louis Pasteur showed that bacteria spoil wine, so he became a hero. Of course, that spoiled wine turned into vinegar, which is actually healthier for you than the wine, but that's another story. So he said it's all about the bugs. We've got to clean things up. We've got to get rid of the bugs. Whereas Béchamp said, no, it's not about the seed, the bug, it's about the soil, the terrain. And Dr. Gundry uses that term over and over in the book, the terrain, which means, the environment that the bugs live in. If we make a right environment, the right bugs flourish. A wrong environment, and the wrong bugs flourish. Now, talking about genes, we have 23,000 genes in our body. The human genes, there are 3 million bacterial genes. 3 million bacterial genes. There are far more bacterial genes than human genes. So when something affects us on a genetic basis, it's working on the bacterial genes, and they do affect us. So Louis Pasteur won at that day, and they said, it was the seed, not the terrain, not the soil. But in the end, on his deathbed, he said, allegedly, I wasn't there, no, it is the terrain. So there's a bug which we call Pseudomonas. And Pseudomonas is a bad bug, Pseudomonas aeruginosa. It's a nasty gram-negative bug. And as it starts to grow in your gut, not your butt, but your gut, there's a keystone species in your gut, keystone meaning important, integral, and that releases acetic acid, that's vinegar, by the way, a probiotic. And this prohibits the bad bug's growth. You can't eliminate the bugs. When people say, I've got C. diff, I go, yes, you do. We all have C. diff, but somehow yours is overgrown. We all have some Pseudomonas. We all have some Enterobacteriaceae. We all have some Acinetobacter. We all have, most of us have a bunch of different bacteria, although greatly diminished because of modern life. We used to have a tsunami of bugs. We used to have a Brazilian rainforest of bugs in there. And every time you take Splenda, every time you take a sweetened soda drink, every time you take an antibiotic, every time you eat something that's not organic because it's got glyphosate, you're crushing this thing. Imagine a coastal town in Florida decimated. Imagine Los Angeles decimated by fire. That's what happens when you disturb the biome. And we see this, and Dr. Gundry's written a book about all of the ways we disturb the biome and why fixing the biome will fix you. So there's one species called Akkermansia. It's found in the stool of all long-lived people, and it's not found in most people because most of us have buggered up our bugs too much. This Akkermansia, which is a mucin-producing bacteria, it makes mucin that lines our gut as an extra barrier to the stuff that we're shoving down there. And when you don't make Akkermansia, you don't have that same barrier, and you have leaky gut, et cetera, et cetera. So the Akkermansia, what do? They make a postbiotic called butyrate, which is one of the 3 short-chain fatty acid supports, and that's a mitochondrial stimulant. So they stimulate mitochondria that stimulate bugs that even make more mucus. So the more Akkermansia, the healthier you are, and yet we're destroying these bugs left and right by our modern American diet. When you've got a leaky gut, there's 4 things that leak through. Pathogenic bacteria, they're getting through. And we know this because you can have your zonulin measured in most states, and you can actually measure it now in New York State. That tells you if you have leaky gut. There's other tests to follow. But it makes the lining of the gut more porous so stuff can get through, and when things get through, it creates a tremendous immune reaction. So pathogenic bacteria are bad when you have leaky gut. Another is, the glyphosate itself. When you have the glyphosate, it kills a third of the bugs in your gut. And it's indiscriminate. It kills the gram-negative and the gram-positive. And then your body has to try and recover and grow these bugs again. Okay, they can do that, but they need the right food. What's one of the right foods? Fiber, which they're not getting enough of. What's the bad stuff? All the glyphosate we're drinking, all the high fructose corn syrup. Fructose itself is a mitochondrial damaging agent. It's just the list goes on and on. What are we doing good for our bacteria? Not as much as we'd like, but there's no question that we can make people feel better with fecal transplants in terms of C. diff. I believe, and Dr. Gundry talked about this years ago, fecal transplants are being investigated as a possible treatment for addiction, colitis, alcohol addiction, etc. This is a fascinating part of medicine, and it's going to get more and more interesting because it doesn't involve destroying the body to make changes. Look at the old chemotherapy analogy. The old chemo was kill all the cells and hopefully the cancer cells die quicker, radiate all the cells, destroy the immune system. New thinking about cancer is stimulate the immune system to help it fix the body. Don't be destructive. Be stimulatory in the right way. Overstimulating is also not good. Too much of any one bacteria is also not a good thing. So it's about the balance. And when we come back after this next break, we're going to talk about how to restore the balance in your gut. First, we'll talk about things you can do to measure it, and then we'll talk about ways to restore the balance in your gut, how to minimize leaky gut, how to make your holobiome healthier. This is Dr. Joe Barry. I'm filling in for Karl Sterling. You're listening to WSYR 570 AM. Welcome back, Central New York. You're listening to Dr. Joseph Barry. The show is called Your Health Matters, and who said it? Your health is your wealth. It's your first wealth. And we all take our health for granted until something goes wrong, and then we're scrambling to get the best of this and the best of that. Well, the whole point is to not need it. Sure, your illness is going to happen to you sooner or later, but most of that is up to you. I was discussing with my family that was in town for this weekend, how much of your health is due to genetics and how much is due to epigenetics of the world around you. And, these are educated, intelligent people, and they were all over the place. 90% genes, 10% genes. The number I believe is more like 10 to 15% the genes, and the rest is your environment. But I'm open to arguing about it either way. But let's say it was only 20% your environment. That's still 20% that you can control. Now, I see this all the time, the loss of control, the lack of control. And what commonly people will say to me is, Doc, in the last 6 months, my mother's come to live with me, and it's been really, it's been really tough, and I love my mom, and she's got a lot of work. She just takes a lot of work, and so of course I can't eat right or exercise. And I said, whoa, hold up. What you're saying is that you have this one problem that you have no control over, and that because of that, you're now saying the stuff that you have complete control over is out of your control. No. Because your daughter or your mother moved back in, because the dog died, because your boss is a jerk, those are things you have no control over. That doesn't mean you have to forsake control over the things that you do have control over. And I see this all the time. Well, I couldn't possibly eat well because, no. But you could possibly. Well, I went to this wedding and I of course I had, no one tied you down at the wedding. I tell them, whose belts do they use to tie you to the chair? Which of them opened up your mouth? I'll have charges filed against these people forcing you to eat that food. And they all like, well, I don't have to. So your character, what you do determines your health. And what the bugs in your body, in part, determine what you do. So let's get back to some basic science. There are 4 typical neurotransmitters in the brain. Glutamate, that's an excitatory neurotransmitter. Acetylcholine, that's the one that's in Alzheimer's, that's another excitatory neurotransmitter. Gamma-aminobutyric acid, shortened to GABA, that's an inhibitory neurotransmitter. Serotonin, another inhibitory neurotransmitter, and dopamine. Now, dopamine can be excitatory and it can be inhibitory. Half of the dopamine in the body is produced in the gut. 90% of the serotonin in the body is produced in the gut. And all of these are affected by the bugs in your gut. The bugs in your guts are the ones that take the tryptophan from your diet and convert it into serotonin and on and on and on. And if you don't have the right bugs, you don't make the right chemicals. So it's very clear that if you eat the wrong foods that don't support the right bugs, you're going to get the wrong bugs growing and you're going to get the wrong health. If you eat foods that support your bugs in the gut, the right bugs, then you're going to get better health because those bugs are going to grow. They're going to crowd out the bad bugs. They're going to make the chemicals, the 3 short-chain fatty acids that are so integral to your care, which is acetic acid, vinegar, butyric acid, and pyruvic acid. These are 3 short-chain acids, fatty acids, that send signaling molecules throughout your body. So right off the bat, you say, well, how could anything in your gut really affect your health? And the answer is it's manifest by looking at the chemicals and how these chemicals are affected by the bugs that you have in your body. So it's really a thrilling thing to see that these chemicals, which we can control by putting different foods in our body to feed the right bugs, can have such a profound effect on our health. And Dr. Gundry's book, he talks about how this is kind of like, and I like this analogy, I'm not sure I understand it completely, but you know how when you're talking to people about something and you look on your phone, let's say you mentioned something about blinds, and you look on your phone, and son of a gun, isn't there an ad for blinds there? Then you go on the computer to check your email, and son of a gun, there's an ad for blinds there. That's the cloud. So we're receiving information from the cloud, and we're receiving it based on what we sent out into the cloud. So if you think of our bugs in the gut as a cloud, you give them data, which is the food, and then they give you different information. And the information they give you may lead you to want to drink alcohol more, to take more sweets, to take more drugs, etc. First off, let's get to this very interesting issue about something that I've believed for a long time, but didn't know really didn't have all the keys to put it together. I myself, I don't think I've ever taken a Tylenol. I haven't done it. When something hurts me, I say, okay, that hurts. I know people that pound down Motrin. Every day they take 3 Motrins. And I said, that can't be good for you. Forget about the fact that it affects your gut, that it affects your kidneys, that it can increase the risk of heart attack, that it can increase the stroke, increase the risk of dangerous bleeding. Forget about all that stuff. I just felt that taking some anti-inflammatory thing every day was going to increase inflammation in the long run. And in fact, as Dr. Gundry points out in this book, that's exactly what happens. That's exactly what happens with non-steroidals, Motrin, Advil, Naproxen, all of those drugs. They change the bugs in your gut. And when they change the bugs in your gut, they actually increase inflammation. So they potentiate the problem. If you take Motrin, you need to take more Motrin. You can't stop taking it because you've killed the good bugs, you've grown the bad bugs. They cause more inflammation. More inflammation equals more pain, so you want to take more pain medicine. And this is, quite interestingly, true for morphine and narcotics as it is for the nonsteroidals. We've always said narcotics cause tolerance. Well, you need to take more and more over time. Well, why is that? Because the bugs in your gut are using up more and more of those morphine. They like the morphine as well as you do. They metabolize the morphine, so you get less and less of it. And those bugs that like morphine, they grow because they're getting morphine. So they get what they desire, they metabolize it. You go, geez, the morphine's not working anymore, and you have to take more and more of it, and that feeds those bugs. So in one fell swoop, Dr. Gundry has put together this hypothesis, and not hypothesis, this is based on actual studies they're doing, looking at these bugs, that people taking nonsteroidals, Motrin, Advil, Aleve, etc., people taking chronic narcotics, the reason why those drugs stop working, why they have to keep taking them, is because it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. You've got to kill those bugs. You've got to cut the inflammation, and then your need for the pain medicine goes down. It's about inflammation. Go to the rheumatologist. They'll tell you rheumatoid arthritis is inflammation. Not Lyme disease. Lupus is inflammation. Psoriatic arthritis is inflammation. The GI doctor will tell you Crohn's disease is inflammation. Ulcerative colitis is inflammation. But if you ask them what causes the inflammation, well, I don't know. Oh, maybe it's it's autoimmune. Yeah, that's it. It's autoimmune. Well, what does that tell you? It just tells you that inflammation is coming from inside you, not outside you. That it's something that's wrong with your immune system. Your immune system is overly stimulated. We live in a world now because of this. Everything has to be Windexed and Lysoled and sprayed and wiped down. Our bodies are not in harmony with nature. We're not picking up tiny amounts of the bug that we become resistant to. We're getting whole doses of the bug because our guts are leaky, and that causes chronic inflammation. They actually have a term for it. It's the cellular danger response. It's called the cellular danger response. And when these cells, including the nerve cells, have when the nutrient source isn't right, when something about their environment isn't right, these cells go into something called the cellular danger response, and that shuts them down. They stop making new membranes. They cut down connections between other cells, and the mitochondria themselves start leaking energy into the system, not into the cell itself, but ATP. They leak ATP out into the bloodstream. This is picked up by the body, and the body goes, there's a problem. There's a problem. Let's send some help to this area because the cellular damage response has been triggered. And it has mitochondria going from M1, normal function, to M2, which is where they simply stop working properly. So we'll talk more about the subtle danger response, et cetera, when we come back for this final quarter hour. You're listening to Joe Barry. I'm subbing for Karl Sterling. You're listening on WSYR 570 AM and 106.9 FM. Welcome back. Central New York, it's Dr. Joe Barry. The show's called Your Health Matters. Well, there's a keystone species called Akkermansia. This is a bug in your gut, and Akkermansia creates mucin, and it helps heal the gut, and it's particularly affected by Motrin and things like that. So you damage the mucin, you damage the gut, you damage the Akkermansia, you got inflammation. Your body reacts to it. You don't give enough of the right bugs in to fix it, and then it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. And again, Dr. Gundry in his books talks about how over and over again, different habits we have, including our weight, are affected by the bugs in our gut. And they actually are influencing what we do and how we act. So I think this is an excellent book, and I highly recommend it. And he actually mentions on page 111 of his book, he talks about plasmalogens. Now, you know that I talk about plasmalogens because Dr. Diane Goodenow has a plasmalogen replacement formula. Plasmalogens are an important part of the cell membrane. Like in the brain, they may contribute up to 70% of the membrane surface could be plasmalogens. These are phospholipids that have particular structure and function. And Dr. Goodenow says, listen, this is a complicated thing. Take my plasmalogen formula, and that'll make it better. Dr. Gundry says, no, take inulin, a sugar found in chicory, which is also a good probiotic, and that can give the bugs in your gut the stuff they need to make the plasmalogens. You know what I like? I like both approaches. Do both. Eat better and supplement better. And, of course, Dr. Goodenow's stuff can be found at prodrome.com. Dr. Goodenow says he can help people with memory loss, Parkinson's, ALS, autism, and MS because they're all membrane-based disorders. And I think that that's, again, we're talking about cutting-edge nutrition with cutting-edge biophysiology. We're coming to a new place in the world, but not a place that's dominated by super high-tech stuff. This is low-tech stuff. Now, how to get better? Number one, eat raw foods. Number two, get some polyphenols, look like resveratrol. Have a little red wine. Not a lot, a little bit. The resveratrol is thought to protect against Alzheimer's by creating neuromalleability in the hippocampus. Resveratrol and other polyphenols also activate AMP protein kinase, which helps promote neurogenesis and mitogenesis, meaning nerves grow and the mitochondria grow. Next, make sure you get the good fats like eggs, seafood, olive oil, alpha-linoleic acid, which I don't get much of. That's in perillo oil or flaxseed oil. Get some fiber. Get some melatonin. Take vitamin D. Get fermented foods. Fermented foods. Now, to me, the most important fermented foods are pickles. I love pickles and vinegar. But there's kimchi, there's sauerkraut, there's lots of different fermented vegetables. And they because they're fermented, the things are broken down easier for our gut bugs to eat than for us to eat. If you do a raw food diet, that food isn't broken down enough yet for the bugs to enjoy it. So cooking things a little bit is not a bad thing. Breaking them down, like fermenting beans, putting beans in a pressure cooker, allows the bugs to get at them easier and better. Now, if you go down to Karl's downstairs, he's got a new treadmill that wobbles back and forth and to and fro while you're on the treadmill machine. That's a real challenge. No one else has that. He's got all kinds of other devices down there. I can't even go through the list of them all that challenge your brain and your body at the same time. That's something new nobody else has. In Signature MD upstairs, just to brag for a second, we brought hydration therapy. In the past, I'd have people that were sick. I'd say, geez, you look like hell. You could use an IV, but I don't want to send you to the ER because no one needs that. Let me call the people across town. They do IVs. Maybe they'll do one for you. And, every once or twice a month I'd do that. And then my son came and said, Dad, you're missing a business opportunity. If you have the staff that can do that, we can start doing IVs here. So although I do the IVs primarily for people that are not feeling well, there's a growing business for people that want to come in and get some vitamin C or vitamin D or get some B complex or get a immune blend or get the supernova. So if you want to try something different, certainly getting an IV is super ultra safe. We have great techs that get your vein the first time. You get a little IV in you. What is it? Is it the fluid that makes you better? Is it the elements that's in it that makes you better? And the answer is it could be either or both. Sometimes I get an IV and I don't feel better because it wasn't bad in the first place. But when I felt bad and I got an IV, it can make a complete difference in a person. You had a hangover? Try the IV. You're pregnant and you're feeling down? Try the IV. You had the flu. You had diarrhea. You just don't feel yourself. You want to see if it makes your skin glow. Come on in. We're not going to talk to you about giving you a weekly shot. We're not going to try Botox. I'm not a med spa. We just give IVs. And We're probably the cheapest in town. There's nothing cheap about IV therapy, but it's something for you to think about and experience. We also offer NAD. As you know, there's ATP in the body and NAD. NAD is one of the molecules that goes down over time, whereas ATP does not go down. And there's a growing body of people that are trying to put NAD back in their bodies and see if they feel better. Who are these people, these crazy quacks? Well, one of them is David Sinclair. He's the chief longevity officer at Harvard. So the head of Harvard Longevity is taking NAD or one of its precursors. Also, you've got Andrew Huberman of the Huberman Institute, of the Huberman Podcast from Stanford. He's a biologist, sleep doctor, scientist, brain, sleep, etc., and he's taking an NAD precursor. He's tried NAD IVs. NAD IVs are a little more symptomatic. They have to be given longer because you can get a little queasy. But the NAD shot or the NAD precursors, that's easy peasy. And that's available now here in Syracuse. So if you're interested, give them a call. The name of the company is called Revive West. Revive West. And the phone number, let's see if I can tell you the phone number, is 702-6031. So 702-6031 if you want to try an IV. Mention my name, Dr. Barry, and they'll charge you an extra 20%. Now, let's again get the big picture. You're in charge of your health. Your doctor is going to manage your illness. But I try and plague my nurse practitioners upstairs in the other practices. Stop focusing on illness. Start focusing on the wellness. Okay, talk about the blood pressure. But if people have high blood pressure, what are the two things that cause blood pressure? One is sleep apnea. You got to go after that. And two is the sodium-potassium balance. So if you have high blood pressure, stop taking that third and fourth pill from the doctor. Tell him, doctor, I would like to have my sodium and my potassium and my urine measured. Say what? He'll have no idea. Doctor, I would like a 24-hour collection of my urine for sodium and potassium. That will prove to me and you that I have more sodium than potassium in my urine. And that means I have an imbalance, and that's what's causing my blood pressure to be up. Once I balance my potassium and sodium together, my blood pressure will go down. This was shown in a study 10, 20 years ago that in Finland, which had the highest rate of stroke, they cut their stroke risk in half by switching to salt substitute, low salt, Morton's light salt. Well, our equivalent of Morton's light salt. In China, last year they did a study that they cut the sodium by 25%. They added 25% more potassium, and they cut their strokes by 25%. China, 25% more potassium, 25% less strokes. Finland, 50% less, more potassium, 50% less strokes. And then Rhonda Patrick, foundmyfitness.com, last month published an article saying the exact same thing. It's not the sodium. It's not the sodium in your diet. It's the sodium-potassium balance. I can't tell you how many people with high blood pressure say, oh, I never touched sodium. I never used a shaker. Then I have to tell them, I want you to start using the salt shaker, but low salt, Morton's light salt, because it is the perfect blend of potassium and magnesium. Use that, potassium and sodium. Use that, and your potassium-sodium ratio has to be normal when you take in a normal ratio to begin with. So get rid of the regular salt, go to Morton's light. Now I often recommend, after the result of the study, that people take extra potassium as well to catch up. But you have to be careful. You can't have kidney trouble. You can't be taking certain drugs that raise potassium. You cannot do this by just measuring blood work because real potassium is inside the cells like magnesium. Sodium you can measure with blood work easily. But to measure the ratios, you have to do a 24-hour urine test. A bit of a pain, but it's the way to get answers. Again, high blood pressure is the biggest problem in America. And I think that the medical profession just says, oh, take a pill. Oh, take a second pill. Take a third pill. And yes, there are rare causes, blocked arteries, over-secreting chemicals, but go after the basics. Go after the sodium-potassium ratio, which you get from a 24-hour urine, and be checked for sleep apnea if you have high blood pressure. Again, many thanks to Karl for letting me get on and rant. I hope I'll give you something you can use and that you can take action with. Get Dr. Gundry's book. Don't wait for the medical profession. Certainly don't wait for the government to change your life, although God bless RFK Jr. and everything his team is doing in Washington. Make yourself healthy. Make yourself immune from going to the doctor by improving your diet, improving your
Proceeding was
exercise.
a paid program by Karl